Hello, and
Hello.
welcome once again to the Tabletop Conversation.
Yes, we haven't done one for a little bit.
I know, this is,
Yeah.
here we are already April 19th. Can
And
you
we've got
believe
others
it?
planned, but this is really a cool one that's come into today.
Yeah, it's basically we're speaking the work. It's about beyond observation to expression.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have here is part of today's conversation our family,
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne and Christina and Sandra.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Mm.
We're glad to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to have you all here. What is specifically you want to share with them? What specifically you do here as part of our family, and some of the things that you love and you focus on, and you like to express as part of who you are in our family that we all have together in our work. You want to start out, Christina?
Sure. Well, let's see. Well, I am the guardian of our community.
Oh, wonderful.
And I take great pride in that. And it's quite an honor to hold such a position like that.
You'll have to talk a little
Yes.
louder, honey.
And I think with Suzanne and I being kind of the assimilation of this work and of the language and concepts and ideas that come in that you all bring through, we love to work with food and prepare food together and to help with assimilation. And
So you have a real focus on actual assimilating of the material?
Yes.
And I think one of the things too that
And
together
listening deeply to what is needed.
exactly,
Mhm.
and I think together.
I think
one
we'll
of the-
let you both speak at the same time.
Isn't that cool?
Yes,
Mhm.
because that's what we do.
Talk over each other.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Now
Much as you need
Suzanne
to.
is going to talk over Christina, and Christina is going to talk over her,
It's like drawing
and maybe
on the-
Sandra will even talk over them.
That's right.
It's like creating this, on the same piece together. All of us,
Yeah,
Mhm.
collaborate.
and that is what living in community is all about, is that kind of collaboration and bringing to the table, so to speak, figuratively and literally, our different strengths and the different focuses that we have. But I know that Christina and I recognized in each other what brought us together, and our deepest root cause together is about, we're both very supporting and nurturing beings. It's just kind of in our equation, and we recognized it in each other. And we have, in some ways, we have some different expressions of that, nurturing and supporting the things that we are passionate about. And then other things, especially the longer we've been together, we're finding together the places where we nurture and support, where we find where the things that we're passionate about expressing come together, and recognizing that music and food are universal languages of support for people.
They really are.
So
They
that,
really are.
so those are our two focuses, but that's the common denominator in it, is that they're supporting and nurturing. And if people don't have that as they are trying to assimilate new information, it's very difficult to find a momentum of change. And so we feel that there's a lot of value in something that a lot of the world has not valued. It's in many ways, it's a very feminine aspect to support and nurture, and there's not always been a lot of recognition or value given to that. And we're both really committed to finding the nuances of that and how it works and how it supports our community just on a daily basis. Just being aware of, and we've increased our awareness of what's happening with all five of us in community. What work is moving, what's being built, what needs to move out as part of the work, what you're receiving, and what is moving us. And so how do we assimilate that first ourselves to take it in, and then use that information to then find ways to share it back and to find out where shoring up is needed. Like if any 5 of us
Support.
are struggling or are in the middle of a big curve,
Mm-hmm.
what is it, that will support that person? So then it actually ends up supporting our entire community, because if any one of us is limping along or struggling, it's not going to serve any of us. So it's taken a while to recognize and understand the importance of that and the value of doing
And that's
it.
actually in knowing yourself better is when that starts
It's
evolving.
really when it came, yeah.
Yeah, I think too. The question is, what is community? Why would why would people create a space that they call community?
Right.
For me, I think that the community is we share the same expenses.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own accounts, but we have where we share the expenses of living and the expenses of home, and then we also share the dedication and the commitment to integrate a way of being with people that have the same needs and the same promise within themselves.
Yeah.
And then we united together because almost in everything that creates a solidity, there's a form of community. Even in businesses, cooperation, there's a form where they all come together and they all work to see something happen for themselves. And also, if they're a community that's sharing out, that they actually get it to the world in some kind of significant way. And I think that the livingness of that takes strong individuality.
Absolutely.
And then the ability to come together and stay whole.
Yeah.
And to listen to each other.
That's a great way to put that. Yeah.
And take the risk of the challenge of becoming a voice, an individual voice and a part of a community voice. Both, holding both in your hand.
Right.
Yeah. Sandra, do you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think as we've been talking before we started the recording, was talking about being an observer but not expressing what you've observed or what you've taken in. And that's been something for me that I could go back and blame some of my upbringing, but that's not necessary. It's a talent that I have not been able to really see the importance of it, except since we've all been together as a community. I've been in a lot of social situations. Growing up in college and all that kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool.
But there was never the intensity of having one purpose, having one focus, and using all their energy to support that focus. And now this is a new level for me, and probably for us, looking at us as a community, is getting that expression out. And I'm looking forward to it, even though I'm a little not sure how much what my role will be, but I feel like what I do enjoy is I've been given the position of being able to, as the work comes forward to Susanna Robert, is to actually, and it's been written, that help with the publication of the books. And that gives me a chance to actually take in the work 3 or 4 times in the process of what I do.
So actually you probably have assimilated the bodies of work that are in the class more than anybody.
Right.
And what you're trying to move is to move that into voice.
Yeah, use the expression to be able to voice it to others, to each other, to the other 4 people.
Wait,
in
you
the
voice it
community.
to us, but you have a harder time voicing it beyond us.
Right, yeah.
That, and to someone that spent a lot of their time observing, that is kind of the position of someone that observes, but doesn't quite, is part of, but is not doing something with the observations in the way that would be as helpful as it could be.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to be able to do that. And that just becomes more my focus as I'm taking in each of these writings. I mean, it's right there. All the information is there. The tools are there.
And that's probably why you're doing it is that that before you can move it, that you need a certain amount of repetitive energy.
Yes, yes.
You need to move it through your 10 of 10, maybe more strongly, and so you have that opportunity.
Right.
And but now it's moving the richness of that opportunity into voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for and I think a lot has to do with being a not having ties so much outside of this house that is distracting, and I like that. I like having the chance to really focus here, still love and concern for others, but and that's not been something I've had in my life, that I've had that much freedom to just focus on myself and what I want, what I want to see.
That is beautiful. That isn't what the female's given in this world very often. And in fact, last night I was in bed and I was Robert and I were talking, and then we kind of drifted, and I was feeling his hand was in my hand, and all at once it was like the female is hardly given this kind of space where it could be in a moment that they're not doing anything, that they could actually be in a moment where they could just feel the presence of someone that loves them, that they don't feel that they have to move their energy to take care of anyone.
Yes.
And I think that's taken a lifetime to claim. And I lay there and I thought, this is what it should be. That going and checking on, is this okay? Are my children okay? Or did this okay? That is almost like an automatic thing. And in this time of life, I'm in my 70s, we can hardly reclaim it. That we go to bed and then we start going through it, and then all at once we never sit and feel what it is to drift. To drift into just solace, to drift into that you're enough, that you're just living, just smelling, breathing, feeling somebody love you, feeling who you are, who you become, and the beauty of yourself. It's like you're only beautiful if you're taking care of something. And so that is a huge thing, and women are not given it. We all now are taught about taking care of yourself, loving yourself, but to really feel like you're not stealing the moment from somebody else, or you're not stealing that time to actually know it is really yours. I think even observation is a way of feeling like you're doing something other than just being there with yourself. So, you're watching everything, but you're not at all seeing yourself or feeling yourself. And everybody's talking about it, but it's got all these other ideas going on. And it's really reclaiming the ability for the female to feel what a female is.
Yeah.
And expressing it.
But even just feeling it.
Yeah.
Last night, I said, Robert, I've never had permission. I've never even been able to give myself permission just to sit like you can sit in meditation. That's something you're doing. But in a moment, just sit and feel who you are back inside yourself, and the beauty of who you are to come to that moment that you even know it's your right.
That's beautiful.
It really is.
And to be able to live amongst
Go ahead.
a family, a community that everybody feels that,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like we
Given
talked about
permission.
sovereignty. We've all worked our way to find our own sovereignty,
Oh yeah.
but to be surrounded by it, and then it's kind of hard to when we have to go out into the world, not the world as far as the work, but just having to interrelate with other people. It's difficult. I find it.
Well, they don't have that sovereignty, and they're not gonna
They're like
They're not gonna like when you do.
right. And when you express your own sovereignty, and
Yeah, but not even saying anything.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think one of the things that has shifted for me a lot that I'm really feeling, especially lately, is the whole concept of being responsible. And I think all 5 of us here in this community have always been responsible people. But in shifting and expanding what that word means and moving it to being response-able, like the, and all of a sudden I just am realizing, for me, a lot of things that are shifting in the way that I dream of is that I'm moving to a heart space where I become able to respond. And I'm increasing my ability to respond to what I see and hear and observe or take in and assimilate, and instead of being in my head about it. And the responsibility that I knew through most of my life growing up was all in my head, you know, figuring out what I needed to do, take care of, tend to, a lot of things you were just talking about as a woman especially. And all of a sudden I'm feeling, I've been asking for and feeling a shift in my ability to be present in this community and to not only hear but to share out of this community. It has to do with my ability to respond to what I've taken in. And so I've really been focused on increasing that ability, asking for more of that to come from my heart space instead of my head space. So, and I'm finding it easier to express and share things that my head can't always figure out before.
You're not having to analyze it.
Exactly. Like
Or
before,
understand it like we were talking
exactly. That was kind of the censor on my sharing, was had my head figured out, had I calculated all the possible responses that people might have to the way I said it or to the information or whatever. And so before I would speak or before I would write or before I would share it in any way out. And so...
And that's kind of like what Sandra
yes,
does
I
too.
was just going to say that's exactly
Yeah.
where I have been most of my life, and that's what's showing up even here.
Yeah. So that's the real journey, is to, for me especially, has been
But
to
the way you
move
worded it was
away from the head
Yeah.
and into the heart and become able to respond instead of this judgmental, critiquing, responsibility term that's been distorted in our world, you know.
I think it's funny because Christina's gonna have a
Well, no,
I'm just because I feel like I have a brain, but I oftentimes my heart will override any kind of thing, and so a lot of times my heart will speak, and you know, like it will profess that I'm in love with you before I've had a conference with my heart saying, "Oh my God," with my head. I mean, to be like, "Do we have a conference about this? I just said I love you. Oh my God," you know, and it was like, I just said that, and it was like, but that's how I feel. And my head's like, well, I'm just gonna have to work this out later because the heart's speaking and that's it. And it's just funny because sometimes
when you do just listen to your heart to speak, it's like sometimes the ridiculous comes out before, and that's okay. You just kind of keep going, moving on. Not that I love you is ridiculous, but I
No.
just mean, you know.
That's been the
Glad you
greatest-
cleared that up.
That's
You know what
been
I
the
mean.
greatest gift that you have given me. I mean, that's why I've even been able to get this far on that journey of getting from my head to my heart.
But it's a
been you.
great balance because I love how you work with that too.
And I think it's
in a
interesting
different
at the heart, because knowing you since you were in your 20s,
Mm-hmm.
that your heart is very active. I mean, your heart's really big, and I feel that too, and I feel like Christina
Thank you.
and Jeff and Robert and Suzanne. But where is it we get caught with the mind?
It's a good.
Mm,
That's
that's a good
very
question,
good.
yeah.
You know,
First
it's
grade.
like,
Yeah.
first,
Get caught in
first
first grade and goes through college if you go that far, and
Yeah.
into, your master's degree.
It only gets rewarded for.
Remember all those pieces, all those bits of information there. It's one thing if you're just going through, probably like I did in school, being very bored, and I would just pick up on stuff that I was interested in. Something like, oh, that's interesting, or I didn't know that. But the other bits and pieces that you go through are just things, a repetition of something that's already occurred and nothing new really going on. They think it's important to give it to you because they know that it's new to you, but they don't tell you this is really old. I'm going to tell it to you anyway, but it's really old, and we've moved on from there. And then they have you go out into the workforce packed full of your head space being full, and that's what they want.
Of old information.
They don't want new heart space. They want old head space.
But what I notice is
But
that
that's changing.
they realize that, but then when people go out, they
Mhm.
realize that in order to go further in their creative life, they have to dump a lot of the old to put more heart space in it. But even they require it of others.
Yeah.
That here they have dumped it and they're using more of the heart space without all the head space. But then they become those who demand that head space as a credential for anyone else that just moves with the heart space. That you have to go through that the gauntlet to get to you're right. Like you have to go through all the learning about art, and then you can do this free kind of more negotiable kind of creative life, and you can do all this art that looks like a child that comes out, but you require you back yourself with, oh, it's okay that he draws like that because he learned how to really draw and he really knows how to draw well, so it's okay. That's the same thing with Matisse, all the big art, they really know how to draw well now, or Monet, now they can do this airy fairy kind of impressionism and all that, but there's still the requiring of that, and
They can do sloppy art instead of precision art.
but they have to learn precision art.
Precision
to do
art.
sloppy art.
The closer you are to the what is now the photograph.
But intuitive art, truly intuitive art, is neither one.
No.
It does have a way of going.
yeah.
It does know where it's going. It has an agenda, and that's what I think is frustrating when you have a voice in the world, that you don't have that backup thing. You have it in another way. Maybe whatever you've become really skilled at, you interpret it into maybe your creative life. And so, but someone that has learned the creative life in a art kind of way, they would not have that skill that you have, that you are now applying into the art. And there's not room for it if you have too much of an agenda. Yeah, that's...
I think one of the easy ways of going forward, and one of the reasons we're having this tabletop conversation, because it's about speaking beyond observing, is that as we move forward with our own work and having met up against the pandemic world, and before that, the outer workaday world that is basically too busy to sit down and really ingest something new because they're on such a pace, a work pace, that with the reset that the pandemic created globally. And even though people haven't really, the majority, you don't see it spoken, that it was a huge change. Obviously, it was. They're traumatized to the point that they won't speak about how big a difference it was, and they're going on as if everything's going back to normal. Nothing's normal. Never really was.
It's not going to fit.
That reset really did have an effect on people's lives, their psyche. And then what we're trying to do, I think, now is how do you speak to a new way of being, a new way of assimilating, a new way of creating. Now, these are things that we've stepped out of the mainstream consciously 30, 35 years ago to explore this territory. And speaking it now because it's become more timely to people, even though the majority of them are not awake to the fact that they have been deeply traumatized and they are in a new space. They're still holding on very much as they can to that older space. But speaking to this newness, we're doing through the work, because the work is, its very foundation, its bedrock is compassion, well-being, support, nurturance, and love. So from all of that, it's all built into everything that is in our work, whether it's our paintings, our altered books, our the collages that Suzanne, you make so beautifully and put into all the work, the books, is something that not just putting it out like a page from the book or a photograph or whatever that is that goes online. It doesn't go as an object to be looked at. It goes as an emissary to be spoken about, and that's the expansion that Suzanne always says. She speaks about what this is that's been placed there that you're looking at. For the community, that is now going to expand because it's time. It's necessary. All the things that are going on in the world. Our class today was with The Promise. That was the book that we read, and the tie-in with the world events of the Ukraine and their sovereignty and their fight for that to still exist and be recognized and honored. There's a huge tie-in.
Well, that's what Sandra spoke about. You want to say that again?
Oh yeah, when it's part of the, I have actually had the sentence at the beginning. It's, when the preliminary forces unite, and I took that immediately as looking at Ukraine. If the rest of this world does not unite behind this situation between a country who has been war-torn and a country that wants to take over that country, if this entire planet and countries don't unite to change this situation.
Well, they are a sovereign country over there, even though they were war-torn, they're sovereign.
Yeah, and then all these other countries that have sovereignty, it seems like they're all some are helping and some aren't, but some are just not even looking at it. And until all the forces unite, there's not going to be a change. This is going to be a new pattern for the world, and we don't want it. We want sovereignty for this planet and universe and everything else. But other countries have got to root out their own sovereignty. Dig down deep and see where they are when they're looking at this situation and have an expression about it.
Well, like in rooting out, not getting rid of, but
Right,
finding their sovereignty.
Down there,
looking at
holding up that root and saying, oh,
yeah,
God, we're,
And as we work on our own individual expressions, we'll start seeing that
happening in the outer world as we
Yeah.
work on
Exactly.
our inner expression.
Right.
And I think that that's the piece that that really resonates with me is how can we really help the world is really by working on that as individuals. And that expression is so important because we do want to help the world. You know, we do want to be able to share how we've been moved by things in our lives and moved by language that you can't hear in other places, you know, and moved by our everydayness and the sacredness inside of all that we do and what we intention and the beingness that we are. And
When we started out with the word community, and what does that mean? People have a fixed idea of community, and when we speak of community, we're talking about commingling.
Yeah.
Communing. We are communing with each other. We are living an individual sovereign life that is communing with others living an individual sovereign life. And we are commingling all of that to create this solid sovereignty among us.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
and that there's unity in community.
Yeah.
You know, also,
Well, that's the commingling.
it's the
Yeah.
it's the high veal, it's the, you know, all of that.
I was
love
thinking
that.
about, because you used the word resonate, and that's what came to mind when Robert was talking too, and he was expressing what your work expresses and what it's made of, what it is. And I realized from the day that I met you all and just heard you talking, or
30 something years
yeah,
ago.
33 years ago. But what it was is my equation resonated with what I heard and felt in
Wow.
your beingness and in what you were writing, what you were painting, what you were doing. And what was so amazing about it, and through all these years, is there was no diminishment of my equation in that. It was only, I was looking for an expansion of my equation.
Oh,
And by commingling with you all and entering into community with you for all these years, I've gotten the joy of expanding my equation and getting to explore more of what it is, what it means.
till you could find a partner.
Exactly.
And
And I finally did.
and that
Recognized it.
And we can also be able to not have ceilings and not keep hitting up against certain limitations that
to
we
keep opening.
we all have common ground too, where we want
keep
we
going.
want to not have those ceilings of
And
limitation.
different times you all have the answer of the portal to open that up. Each
Yeah.
one of us at different times
Yeah.
have it, not the same one all the time.
Yes.
Wow, I love that.
I also just wanted to add real quick too that you know, just being a couple in a community has been so enriching for our for our relationship too, because if it was just the two of us, I mean, there's a beauty in just two people, but there's so much more when you can live with 5 people that that support and love and encourage. And also laugh and the fun and the joy and the gratitude that we all share, and that enhances our relationship. It's like adding whipped cream and sprinkles to something. I mean, it's like the ice cream is just enough, but when you have that and those other layers, it's like it adds so much more to
Note
our
to food
livingness.
metaphor.
Yeah, and that's so perfect, honey. I love how you
so
said
it's
that.
really enriching.
Because
for
it
us.
also gets it, the more we are able to like witness ourselves. It's like,
Watching
sometimes
yourself
when you're
change.
so insular, like if you're in the middle of your relationship, you're so up close to what you're moving and what you're experiencing relationshipally and all of that. But then when you have an opportunity to express and talk about it, or be observed in community as what you're moving through, all of a sudden you get to see, wow, that's really cool about us, or look what we were able to do, or what we could get through, the challenge that we managed to see.
Well, you also
and-
live in a community that doesn't believe in your separation.
Exactly.
And that's a hard thing
It's
to do in
huge.
this world by yourself.
Or any
Oh, it's
negative
huge.
space that, everyone runs into negative space because it's
Sure.
built into the world. But when you run into it and you have community that's kindred,
Yes.
then
No,
they
Well-
see the
isn't
positive
real.
and they
It
can
doesn't believe
insert
it's
that
real.
and
Exactly.
trump that kind of
Oh
And
my
to
God.
be in a
negativity all the
community
time.
too, that you could be by yourself
Yeah.
and still be whole.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That you
Mhm.
could be a wholeness. So that's, I think that's why we're in different relationship patterns.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And together we make an equation that is a wholeness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was beautifully said. I love
Well, this is a good start for a
Yeah.
tabletop
Anything else anybody
conversation.
want to
Yeah,
say?
anything?
Sandra, do you want anything else?
it. I'm grateful.
I'm
Yeah.
grateful
I thoroughly
for
enjoyed
being in
this.
community.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Thank
me
you for
too.
this opportunity to be a
Absolutely.
part of your
Yeah.
tabletop.
I love these
Yeah.
tabletops.
And we will do again. We'll post this shortly.
This
And,
ended up being how many?
let's see, how long is this? This was 35
That's
and a
pretty
half
good.
minutes. It's not bad. Very good.
Yeah,
Tabletop
that's good.
conversation, just enough to dip in and get a feel
Yeah.
for what's going on.
Thank you.
Until next time, this is Tabletop Conversation
Uh-huh.
with Robert and
Suzanne,
Clarity.
clarity.
Bye for now.